On to the next topic, the Cincinnati Bengals. Before the offseason started, we all said they have one need. This is their biggest one. They have to address it. It's the offensive line. They got Ted Karras and Alex Kappa. And when they got those two guys, were like, they upgraded. This is not a great offensive line, but they definitely upgraded. But then the Cowboys released Lyle Collins, and he went on a visit with the Bengals and got ingrained in that Who Dey culture and said, I want to be a Bengal. I was looking at his media presser, and he was like, I want to win championships here.
Collins said that?
Yeah. He's like, he wants to win championships. That's why he came to Cincinnati. And now the new offensive line additions feature Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, and Lyle Collins. So what do you think about the Bengals offseason, the improvements they made to their offensive line, their projection going into next season? Because we know the AFC North has now gotten better. Even though they did lose CJ Uzomah, they did sign Hayden Hurst, who I think is a good replacement for him.
Definitely.
So what do you think? I'll start with you, Joel.
I like the moves the Bengals made. Upgrading their biggest weakness at offensive line, really across the board, guard, tackle, center. I think overall it was a good offseason for the Bengals. They lost CJ Uzomah, brought in Hayden Hurst, so that's, cancels out. Even you could probably make the argument that Hurst is a more athletic tight end. He's a good blocker as well. So the moves overall are good. They're fine. To me, though, the rest of the AFC North just made better moves, right? And I've kind of been on record to be, I don't want to say a Bengals hater, but I don't believe in them going in.
That's what you've been. I'm going to be honest.
That's fine. I haven't. Because I said the Jets
were going to be better than them is nuts.
It is kind of crazy.
It's going to get brought up all season.
That's fine. Crazier things have happened, like the Bengals going to the Super Bowl.
Hey, man. That's facts.
But
someone knew.
When I look, the Bengals 20... What?
Who knew?
Someone.
That the Bengals were going to go?
Go to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, facts. You said that once.
Facts.
But the Bengals 2020 or 2021 season, I mean... They got a little lucky. Can we just say that? They got a little lucky, right? First of all, they had a fourth place schedule. They had the Ravens fall apart with Lamar's injuries. The Steelers, who Big Ben has been on his last legs for 2 seasons. And the Browns, Baker Mayfield got hurt. And even still, they were a game away from missing the playoffs. Then the first round of the playoffs got matched against the Raiders, who an average team, probably. I mean, they were a playoff team.
Average.
You picked them to win.
I did pick them to win. But
So did you.
I know. All right, he's just calling
because I'm a Derek Carr guy, so I was going to pick him. But Burrow's the better quarterback right now. So they beat the Raiders, who aren't the most impressive team. And then the second round, they played the Titans, who, again, were battling injuries with Julio, with Derrick Henry. And, again, probably the weakest 1 seed we've seen in a few years. To their credit, they beat the Chiefs. So I look at this past season as more luck than anything. I don't want to, that sounds kind of disrespectful because they won 10 games. They won the division. They made the Super Bowl. But in terms of the last few years, teams that made the Super Bowl, I kind of look at them as one of the weaker ones. And while they did upgrade the offensive line, I see the Ravens getting back Lamar Jackson, picking up Marcus Williams. I think their O-line's going to be healthy. You get J.K. Dobbins back. I think overall they're just going to be healthier and have ended up having a better record than them. The Steelers are kind of still in that whatever tier because they got Mitch Trubisky, who, if you want to call an upgrade from Ben or not, I still don't see them as really competing for this division. And then the Browns, who just got Deshaun Watson. So I really think the Bengals are going to be a third-place team. I think the Ravens and the Browns are going to be over them, depending on what happens with Deshaun Watson. Because if he does get suspended 8 games and the Browns start off 2-5, they have a bye week in there or something like that, it's going to be a bit more difficult for them to come back from it. So the Bengals offseason overall, they did what they had to do in terms of upgrading the offensive line. But I think just the rest of the teams in their division and then the conference as a whole just got so much better. And I look at their past season just being a little bit lucky and not having the most difficult road to the Super Bowl. I think they just overachieved. So going into next season, their offensive line's going to be better, but I think they take a step back and end up being third in the division.
Did this offseason of the Bengals impress me? 100%. The Chargers laid the groundwork or the foundation for teams that have a franchise quarterback and have a bad offensive line. You get your franchise quarterback, and then you do everything you can to fix that offensive line to protect them for the future. This past season, we saw the Bengals go to the Super Bowl, and the reason why they didn't end up ultimately winning the Super Bowl was because their offensive line was horrible. I believe Joe Burrow was sacked 23 times in the playoffs. I believe that's the number off the top of my head. I'm looking at it.
He was sacked 11 times in one game.
I'm looking at it from this lens. Joe Burrow showed that with a terrible offensive line, he is good enough to at least be a part of a team that goes to the Super Bowl. And regardless of how you want to say whether he played really good, whether he played elite, whether he got lucky to a degree, I'm looking at it from this sense. Down double digits against the Chiefs to come back in Arrowhead to win that game. I'm giving him a ton of credit for that. He played well in the Super Bowl. I wouldn't say he played great. He played good. I'd give him good. He wasn't great in the Super Bowl against the Rams, but again, he was facing one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. They won the Super Bowl for a reason. The Rams were elite. Against the Titans, he played well, but now you're giving him an offensive line to actually have some time to see Jamar Chase. If he had an offensive line in the Super Bowl and he has a second longer to see Jamar Chase breaking down Jalen Ramsey and having a wide open lane for the touchdown, we're talking about the Bengals being Super Bowl champions.
You think any of these guys are stopping Aaron Donald? No. You don't even have to answer.
Give him a second longer?
Bro, it's
He
Aaron
had
Donald.
no time.
It's Aaron Donald.
All right, yes, you're making a fine point because it's Aaron Donald, other than the fact that he was
the entire
and he
game.
was destroyed.
I'm just going to push back on that moment. Because
Moment.
It's the best player in football probably making a Super Bowl winning play.
Yes, but a second longer was all it needed. All he needed.
We've seen Aaron Donald destroy the best of the best.
You know what I noticed? I noticed that whenever it's a team you're not so high on, it's all of a sudden lucky.
Me?
Yes.
How's that?
You mentioned Lamar Jackson getting injured. Well, the Bengals faced Lamar healthy, and they torched them.
Yeah.
In the two games,
their secondary was destroyed too.
In the two game, Marlon Humphrey played in that game, and Jamar Chase had 200 yards on him.
Jamar Chase is gonna do Jamar Chase
and broke tackles with the spin, and then
that's
just
exactly
took it
my
to the
point.
house.
We're talking about Jalen Ramsey, who again is the best corner in football, and he dusted him. You give Joe Burrow a second longer to maybe not let sit in the pocket.
Listen,
give
if it was anyone but Aaron Donald, I would say you got it.
We're talking Jalen Ramsey also.
He understand that, but that's why Aaron Donald is Aaron Donald.
See, I understand that, but a second to not sit in the pocket and wow, Jamar's wide open.
A
second to get yourself out of the pocket.
A second in the pocket is a ton of time.
0.5 seconds, fine.
You don't even got to say that. You give Joe Burrow an offensive line in that Super Bowl, this offensive line in that Super Bowl, they win it. Simple as that.
I'm not.
They win that game. And you want to call it lucky.
maybe not.
You want to call the Bengals run lucky. Look, I know Super Bowl hangover.
I said it included luck.
There is such thing.
Everything does.
There is such thing as a Super Bowl hangover.
Was the Rams
no doubt.
run luck?
This past year?
Yeah.
No, they had 3 comeback wins.
But that's what I'm trying to say. Like luck
The
to a
Bengals
degree,
had a
like,
comeback win also against the Titans.
They
and the Chiefs.
also played the Bucks, who were the defending Super Bowl champs. I guess they played the Chiefs. The Bengals did.
They came back against the Titans.
Listen,
and
I'm
Chiefs,
talking.
though.
Listen, the Rams. I'm saying was not lucky. I agree. They were not lucky.
I think their path was harder, especially because they were in a harder division too in the regular season.
Their path to a degree was more difficult.
We're talking
yes.
the NFC West compared
I'm not
to
disagreeing.
a beat up AFC North.
I'm not disagreeing.
So the Rams comeback wins aren't lucky, but the Bengals ones are.
No, I never said their comeback wins were lucky.
Yes, I agree with that. I'm saying I believe that the Rams wins were not luck.
It wasn't the fact that they won because they're lucky. It's just the matchups they had. Like they had an easier path because their division was torn apart with injuries, and then they played a Raiders and Titans team they're playoff teams, but they're not like these over the top great teams. Like they didn't have to play like the team like the Bucks in the second round. The Bills, like if they played the Bills in the second round, they would have got tossed.
How do we know that they beat the team that beat that?
I understand.
Look, I understand what you're saying, but then again, you picked the Raiders and the Titans to beat the Bengals.
I did.
And the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So you went 0 for 3. I at least picked the Titans. I went 1 for 2, but I at least picked I at least picked the Bengals to beat the Titans.
I picked them to beat the Raiders. That was it. I did not see them beating the Chiefs. And listen, credit to them. They should have lost.
But you're right. You're right. I'll just use your point to go off what I'm gonna say. You're right. Luck is involved in everything,
Yes.
right? With that being said, this upcoming season, we all think Deshaun's going to get suspended at least 6 to 8 games. The Bengals start hot. The Browns don't. They're going to be ahead of them. I look at the Bengals and the Steelers. The Bengals are better than the Steelers.
Definitely.
I'm not thinking about
That's
it.
easy.
So based on that alone, I have the Bengals over the Browns and Steelers because we're not going to get a full season of Deshaun Watson. Versus the Ravens, I think the Bengals have a better roster than the Ravens. I think their offensive line now is better than the Ravens. I think their running back, Joe Mixon, is better than J.K. I like their receivers better than the Ravens. Ravens just got the tight end of Mark Andrews, and defensively,
I got Hollywood and Bateman too.
And defensive, it's not Jamar Chase.
It's obviously not, but you're throwing them away like they're terrible.
Because
they're significantly better than the Colts.
Compared to these guys, compared to these guys, I'm throwing them away.
They have arguably the best duo in the league.
Yeah, it's just when you're talking about Ravens to Bengals, you just can't do it.
And
Listen,
then defensively,
I like the Ravens
they're close
weapons as well, but you can't.
Because of that, I mean, I've already seen Joe Burrow torch the Bengals twice last year.
Never seen Lamar torch the Bengals?
I seen it, but not these new look Bengals, not these who they Bengals. That's for sure. Joe Burrow's rookie season, he got blown out by the Bengals and the Steelers. Very next year he came back Ravens and the Steelers. Very next season he came back and he said, "Watch this," and he cooked them. Joe Burrow is one of those top echelon quarterbacks, and in this NFL, in order to be the last team standing, you need an elite level quarterback, and Joe Burrow can go up against any single quarterback in the NFL, and he can win you a game.
You heard they need an elite level guy at quarterback. Okay.
Yeah, you do. I mean, why would I say something different?
No, I'm just. Why
would I say something different?
I just wanted to highlight that. Go on.
If you're talking about Matt Ryan, I think Matt Ryan can play at that level.
I never said Matt Ryan.
You better not say him because I know who he is.
Yeah, Matt Ryan can be Joe Burrow.
Matt Ryan is him.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan is him.
Matt Ryan's like Tim.
Doesn't it look like Matt Ryan played in the 60s in this picture right here?
But with that being said, I think if you want to say luck last year, you had the Ravens hurt, you had the Browns hurt, you had the Steelers with Big Ben. I mean, I think the Steelers, we're not going to be that high on the Steelers this year anyway. The Browns, they might not even have a starting level quarterback for half the season.
You just said Jacoby can win you some games.
He's a good backup, but if they were losing with Baker,
they're playing the NFC South, bro. They could get it done.
No, yeah, I know, but I'm saying Jacoby, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like Baker's better than him. Even on a torn labrum, I think Baker's better than Jacoby Brissett. Sure. And the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, he's always an injury risk because of the way he plays.
First year getting hurt.
Even so, he's an injury risk.
You can't do that.
He's an injury risk.
He had 2 seasons and didn't miss a game.
So Joe Burrow is an injury risk.
You can say that. I
don't want to say that.
I wouldn't be mad at you.
But I don't want to say that.
If you want to say that, you can. I mean, Joe Burrow, you can say he's an injury risk, but then again, he's getting sacked in the pocket. His injury came from his offensive line being trash. They fixed that offensive line. Lamar's injury is coming from him running into tacklers and taking big-time hits.
I want to say Lamar got hurt
on a sack.
Yeah, he hurt his ankle on a sack.
It's even worse. He's getting hit twice as much. You know what I'm saying? So
his offensive line was trash last season.
Luck is going to play a part in every single run.
Yes.
The one thing that worries me about the Bengals, I think offensively they did a great job. I think Hayden Hurst is just as good as CJ Uzomah. And he's not as good as a blocker, but I think he's a slightly better receiver.
He's still a good blocker because he played with Baltimore, and you have to be able to block.
He wasn't the main blocker there. It was Mark Andrews and Nick Boyle. He was like the third guy there. Defensively, that's where I get a little bit worried.
Agreed.
I don't. Eli Apples, he's average. I like Awuzie. I like Hilton. I feel like they're missing one more corner. Jesse they have Bates to address it.
Did they re-sign him yet or no?
Yeah, they franchise tagged him.
Smart.
I like that. I like the defensive line. I feel like they're like 2-3 pieces away on defense for me to really buy into them as a whole and to really put them in the upper echelon again. But offensively, I mean, we know they're there. Like they are one of the best offensive teams in football. Probably going to finish top 5 this upcoming season for sure.
Didn't they lose a couple guys in defensive line?
Ogunjobi.
Oh yeah, okay. Did they lose BJ Hill too? They re-signed him.
So you have them. Do you think they're making the playoffs? I can't. This shouldn't be a thought.
No,
respectfully, they're not making the playoffs.
I think.
Come on,
they're gonna be close.
This is just one. I respect the hot take more than the next, as much as the next guy for sure. This is just one of those where
they're gonna be in the wild card race, and it's gonna be close.
Them winning the division is not out of the question.
It's not.
The Ravens.
They should be the favorites. I like them.
Listen, you think Deshaun's the best quarterback in football. If the Browns go 3-5, you don't think Deshaun could go on a run and
He could easily. He could easily. But
I don't know. 3-5 though, that's a deficit.
My point being is you have the Ravens winning the division, correct?
Yeah, I'll see where the Deshaun ends up being. But if it's the 6-8 that I expect, I'll take the Ravens.
I just look at the Bengals. Yes, the defense does worry me, but offensively they got better, which is crazy.
Yeah, their line got better.
And the coaching staff is the same from last year too. I
just can't see how we look at a team that improved at their biggest need. Defensively, I do have my worries, but they're good enough to continue the path that they were on last season. The run that they went on in the playoffs, I don't know if they could sustain that for a full season. That's a little bit too much to ask of them. But offensively, Joe Burrow is going to continue to get better. Jamar Chase was 1,413 touchdowns, correct? T. Higgins, 1,000-yard receiver, first 2 seasons of his career, is going to continue to do that, continue to get better. Tyler Boyd is your number 3 option, is fantastic. Adding Hayden Hurst. I just can't see how you look at this team and think that they regress.
It's not more so that they regress. I just think that last year they got not lucky, but they had a 4th place schedule and they had a division. I think this division, we have to project it to be healthier at the very least. I don't think all of the quarterbacks are going to get hurt.
I'll tell you this. I don't disagree with the 4th place schedule thing. However, you make it to the playoffs, regardless of that fact, regardless how you want to look at the Raiders. They had an impressive win against the Chargers. They were one of the hotter teams down the stretch of the season. They gave them an excellent game. Against Tennessee, they're the number 1 seed, regardless of how we may feel about them.
I think we agreed that they were the weakest number 1 seed we've seen in a very long time.
Okay, fine. You had a healthy A.J. Brown. You had a healthy Julio Jones, who was solid in that game. You had Derrick Henry, who was coming back, was not Derrick Henry, but even still, Dante Foreman was.
Tannehill threw 3 picks, and they still almost won.
They did almost win, but regardless of that fact, Joe Burrow stepped up.
He did. This isn't a shit on Joe Burrow.
I'm just saying the team as a whole. Joe Burrow was clutch, had the clutchest throw of the game to Jamar Chase to shut it down.
For sure.
Now against the Chiefs, down double digits, 17 points, I believe, 17 or 18.
I don't know.
17.
To come back in Arrowhead, like certain things are lucky, yes. That playoff run, I can't look at it and think it was luck.
It might have been 19 points.
I'm not saying like their whole season was luck. It's just a matter that
I'm talking playoff run specifically. Yeah. I don't think it was luck.
I think that the AFC got so much better this year in this past offseason that the Bengals, while they did get better, I look at other teams, kind of how we talked about who we just talked about. What was the last topic? Am I blanking?
The Colts.
Baker.
Yes.
Seattle?
I don't know where I was trying to go with that. Anyway,
that's all right.
I just think that other teams in the division got better. So, or in the conference in general, just got better. So while the Bengals did upgrade at their biggest weakness being offensive line, I still look at other teams who got better. Like, who are you taking next year? You think they have a better record, the Broncos or the Bengals?
Oof. That's tough. We're in a tough division.
You are?
I mean, who do you think's a better team? You're the one that's kind of low on the Bengals.
You know what?
Probably the Broncos.
I think the Broncos too, actually.
Okay, Chargers or Bengals?
Chargers probably.
Chiefs or Bengals?
Probably the Bengals, believe it or not. Yes.
You want to put a bet on that?
Yeah, I would.
$20? Bet. What do you want? Regular season record? Or deeper?
I mean, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, done.
I think the Chiefs are going to have a better record. So that's 3 teams already, and we could probably make the argument for the Raiders too. So that's 4. So now that's 1 division winner, 3 playoff teams, and now in your own division.
We don't necessarily know the Raiders are better.
I mean, the Raiders upgraded at arguably 2 of their biggest weaknesses, wide receiver and edge.
Would you say receiver was a weakness of theirs?
Yes.
To a degree.
I mean, they had Waller, who's, I mean, you could classify him as a receiver.
Dolphins
I don't
or
think.
Bengals?
That's
I love the Dolphins. I love them. I don't know now if I could take them over the Bengals.
That's fair. But even still, we're looking at 4 teams in the AFC South, and we're still even thinking like, the Ravens are going to be right there. If the Browns could stay afloat and they get Deshaun back, they're going to be right there. So I understand they went to the Super Bowl and we think they upgrade everything, but that doesn't automatically put them in the playoffs or make them a favorite.
Like, they were super raw. Them at their rawest made the Super Bowl. They're only going to get better. We're talking about a top 5 talent in Joe Burrow.
I mean, if they were but that doesn't happen all the time. Just because you go to the Super Bowl, we look at all the. When's the last time you go back? Someone went back.
I'm not saying they're going back to back. I'm just saying, why am I expecting this team to regret? Like, yes, I guess a regression is if you don't go as far as you made it last season.
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah, because if they don't, if they win 2 playoff games going to the AFC Championship, I'm not saying they regress.
So you think the Ravens are a better team than the Bengals?
I'm picking the Ravens to win the division right now.
I can't see that right now. I can't. I'm looking at the Ravens pass rush also. It's not that good.
They need help on edge.
And with this Bengals offensive line, if you're giving Joe Burrow time to throw to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, it's going to be a light show. I don't care who you have in your secondary. There's no one in that division right now that is holding the Bengals to under 25 points.
The Ravens front 7 is bad.
It's not good.
It's a deep edge class.
It is, but even still, I don't know if you draft a difference maker in year 1 that's going to stop Joe Burrow in that offense.
Probably not, but you're going to get guys that could at least contribute.
The Browns right now are the team that I'm looking at that with Deshaun Watson, with the fact that their front seven is solid, the fact that their secondary is solid, they could probably use another piece on the outside. That's a team that I look at that, all right, the Bengals really could struggle against this team. Outside of that, even still, I'm confident in the Bengals. Joe Burrow has the best arm in that division. He's the best. Oh, I'm lying. I'm sorry. Deshaun, when he's on the field, yes, he's by far got it. I'm thinking in the sense that he's not there. But yes, you have to give the Browns that credit when Deshaun's on the field. But again, that suspension is looming. Whether I think he's going to get suspended or not, the consensus is he's going to get suspended at least 6 games. So that's enough for the Bengals to
have a sizable lead
for sure
to start the season off.
Yeah.
The Ravens scare me. That front seven is not good. And their secondary, yes, they added Williams. Marlon Humphrey is still
Even
really,
so with
really
all
good.
that injuries, whether
And Marcus Peters is coming back.
He won, what, 8
But
games
there's
last year?
no one on that secondary, including Marlon Humphrey, including Marcus Peters, who is hurt, that's stopping
With
Jamar.
all those injuries to Lamar, the secondary, the running backs.
I'm not saying,
won
listen,
8 games.
I'm not disagreeing that the
Great-
Ravens will be better.
great
I
coaching
agree.
staff,
They're going to
team
be a
that
better
drafts
team
well.
this year. But they're not going to be on the Bengals level.
You don't think they don't have a chance? They're not like. I mean,
There's always an injury
they're
away.
not on the same level, but they were 2 games away from the Bengals. They won 8 games. The Bengals won 10.
And the Bengals had the worst offensive line, the second worst
And the
offensive
Ravens
line
had
in
the
the
most
league.
injuries in the NFL.
For sure.
They both have improved. I don't think we're expecting the Ravens to have the most injuries, and the Bengals got healthy. Or the Bengals upgraded their offensive line.
It's a fair point.
You know?
Fair
I don't
point.
think, it's not going to shock me by any means if the Bengals go and win the division, but I just think I'd pick the Ravens right now. I think the rest of the AFC got better and healthier.